Hello, welcome to Video Mania 2. I'm the man behind the counter, Duncan, and today we're going to talk about an action sci-fi classic. This is the one that started it all and made several people involved with this film household names. This spawned several sequels and is one of my all-time favorite franchises, and it kind of came off the rails. Well, not kind of, I think it really did, towards the end of the franchise's run, and I'll talk about that in future videos, but I'm going to run through many of these movies of this franchise, but I'm going to talk about the one that started it all right now. It is The Terminator, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton. It also stars Michael Biehn. It was written and directed by James Cameron. And this movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger was really starting to come on strong after Conan the Barbarian. And this, The Terminator, made him a household name, really mainstream. It also really kickstarted Linda Hamilton's career, who I think is a great actress, and it started James Cameron. This made he did, I think, Piranha 2: The Spawning, which I think he only filmed a couple weeks and they fired him because he went over budget. It was so small, but this was, the first time he wrote and directed, I believe, and this is where he really established himself as a force to be reckoned with. And so now, let's get into the movie. This movie was made on a shoestring budget even for its time. You're talking about a sci-fi action movie with some horror elements too. But you pitch that in today's times, wow, that's going to be a pretty expensive project. This one they did on a shoestring though, and they made the most of it though, and it goes to show every time story is what's most important here. So the movie starts out, we have young Sarah Connor, played awesomely by Linda Hamilton, and she's just a 19-year-old California kid, and she's just a waitress and trying to, establish herself in the world. What little does she know what's coming. And then two figures from the future, one is human, one is not. A guy named Kyle Reese, played by Michael Biehn, who's awesome in this role, and he comes back through time to stop something and to protect Sarah Connor. And then you see also the Terminator is sent back through time, and so they go through the time displacement field, and they both arrive in Los Angeles and are looking for Sarah Connor. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, this took back then his acting range was much more limited, so this role was perfect for him. This turned his limitations into an asset. So James Cameron did that really well. So he goes and looks for, he gets some clothes and finds a phone book, because that's what you had to do back in 1984. Starts looking for Sarah Connor, and he just goes through. He's a Terminator, and he just, in very, orderly fashion, he's like, Sarah Connor, and he just starts looking for him. So the Sarah Connor of this movie, though, two Sarah Connors are killed, so she's starting to get scared. She knows something's up because she sees a news report, so she's trying to call the cops. And there's somebody following her, so she goes to this bar called Tech Noir, and which is an awesome-looking 80s club. And she's like, this guy's following me, but it's actually her protector, Kyle Reese. But so she just stays in public. Cops are like, just stay out in the open. No one will harm you. Little do they know. So the Terminator finds her too after he ransacks her apartment and kills her roommate. And so now he goes to the club to find her, and he's about to finish her off, and then Kyle Reese shoots him, the Terminator. And the Terminator pops up and keeps on coming. So that's what Terminator does. You can't just take him out with a gunshot. And she's like, why is that man getting up? And he's like, he's not a man. He's a machine from the future. So Kyle Reese does the classic line, come with me if you want to live. And they get in the car and they take off, and the Terminator starts coming. And first Sarah Connor's like, let me out of the car. Just let me out, and you two can fight it out. I don't know what's going on here. And he pulls to the side after the cops chase him after the shootout at the club. And he explains to her. She doesn't believe. He's like, I'm from the future. I've been sent to protect you. Let me explain. He shows a barcode on his arm, and he explains to her in the future. And you see glimpses of the post-apocalyptic future in 2029, but not much because of the limited budget. So they had to use very practical effects for this, and that all looked pretty good for the time. They had to have models and a few different things they had to do. Now she begins, and Michael Bean conveys this so well. How strongly he believes her. She's like, this is completely crazy, but she does believe him. And then the Terminator starts coming for him again. Like, he finds him in the parking garage, and they start chasing him down. So she's like, this guy is relentless. And he explained to her what the Terminator was. So they keep on going. And eventually, though, with the big police chase, they're caught. And Dr. Silverman, who comes important in later installments, he tells her, Kyle Reese is a complete loon. They hear about the whole Terminator and, Judgment Day and all that. Not Judgment Day, that's not talked about until Terminator 2, but they talk about, the future and what's happening and how he got there. And they're like, okay, this story is completely out there. This guy is a loon, in simple terms. But she still kind of believes him. And then, I'm at the police station, and there the police are like, you're perfectly safe. But the Terminator comes again. And the classic line Arnold Schwarzenegger uses, I'll be back, when they won't let him through. So he just bulls his way through, takes out all the cops, and Reese escapes to find Sarah Connor. And now she believes him completely. She trusted him before, wasn't sure what to believe, but now she believes him. And they go on the run again, and the Terminator keeps coming. And Kyle Reese is a warrior from the future, but he doesn't have the tools to take out the Terminator. So they try to run and hide, and they do everything they can. But eventually, when they learn more about each other. They fall in love, and he tells her that he's always admired and loved her from afar and traveled across time to meet her and to be with her. So they have that one night together, which is crucial to future installments. So all that's established into the final showdown with the Terminator here. That's the basic plot. I explain as best I can, but the thing is it shows the final confrontation, how this Terminator just keeps on coming, and what are they going to do with the limited resources. And that's really how this movie was made too. I think the horror element was partly introduced because the budget for James Cameron was so limited, and it still has the classic score by Brad Fiedel, but it's not a big symphony. It's more just a couple synthesizers, and a piano, because they just didn't have the budget. And the thing about this movie is it had no expectations on it, and it just really, nobody knew what to expect of it. But an interesting side note, when Arnold Schwarzenegger was cast, there was talk, that O.J. Simpson would be the role of the Terminator, but, people believed that wouldn't be believable, that he would be a killer. Who knew? But that's one thing, interesting fact about that movie. But I just love how, back then there wasn't CGI. So when you saw glimpses of 2029, they had to use models, and they hold up fairly well. But I mean, they had to do the best they could with what they had. And also back then, when you had robots and creatures and stuff, they used a technique called stop motion. So as they fight the Terminator and this organic tissue over the living tissue over the metal skeleton, that's revealed when the actual Terminator, when you see what it actually is, the cyborg. They had to use stop motion back then to establish what that was. So that technique was incorporated, which was much more cost effective, and CGI really wasn't in. But Stan Winston's design is amazing. Everything here is great, and it established something for future films. But I just love this movie, and it shows how story and great performances and creating the atmosphere can make up for the lack of, you don't have the biggest spectacle ever, but I think it's better than most spectacles because the story is there. That's what I keep hammering home all the time. But anyway, I absolutely love this movie. And in future installments, I'm going to talk about where the franchise I thought should have gone and what went wrong, but this movie really established it all. If you haven't seen it, I cannot recommend it enough. Absolutely awesome. If you're new to the action genre or sci-fi genre and you're wondering when you've seen future songs the Terminator, they weren't so good, like how are people ever into Terminator? This one is one of the essential reasons as to why. Now, I'm sorry, I rambled too long. Also, you like older action movies, classics like this, or even ones that fell under the radar, give Video Mania 2 a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. That's all I have for today. I'm sorry I haven't been making a lot of videos. I've been swamped with work. But I'm going to talk about the sequel tomorrow, and I'll see you next time.